Hi everybody, my name is Jim with Full Moon Adventure Club, and today we're going to be going over how to troubleshoot and fix an oil gauge that is just all the way down at zero. So I was driving down the road on an RV trip, I looked down, my oil pressure gauge was just buried all the way at zero. So the first thing you want to do is you want to pull over immediately if this is happening while you're driving and turn the motor off. Because you really need to make sure that you have oil pressure inside the motor or it will do damage and destroy it very, very quickly. So that's what I did, and then I checked to make sure that I had oil in the engine and I was right where I was supposed to be. And then I decided to turn on the motor just for a minute and make sure I didn't hear any knocks or pings and make sure the temperature was okay, and everything was just running completely smoothly and it was purring like a kitten. It had oil in it. There was no noise coming out of it. The temperature was fine. It was right where it was supposed to be. There was no smoke coming out of the exhaust. And then I used a flashlight and pulled off the oil fill cap off of the top and just shined a flashlight in there, and I could tell that everything was very well lubed up with oil, so I knew that oil was circulating through the motor. So now I know that I probably have a problem with the oil pressure sending unit, the wire going from the oil pressure sending unit to the oil gauge, or the oil gauge itself. That's pretty much the three things you're going to troubleshoot if it's a gauge or wire or oil sending unit problem. It's just those three little components. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to go through how to test these things and what I ended up doing to repair and replace it. And I'll try and keep it as simple and quick as I can so we all understand it. So let's get right to it. So my RV has a Ford 460 V8 engine. It's a gasoline engine. It's 5.7 liter. I just wanted to clear that up. It's from 1982, so you know what I'm working on. And we're going to be checking that out. Now the oil pressure sending unit looks like this on my particular model. And it's usually going to be located in one of two places in almost all automobiles. It's going to be down by the oil filter, or it's going to be in the very back of the motor by the intake manifold like mine is right here. So you're going to have to make sure you can access that. And for me, I can just pull the inner dash out and I have a really good access point to that area in the unit. So here's the unit right here, and what we're going to do is pull this little wire off, and sometimes it can just be a dirty wire. If your gauge is faulty, you can pull it off the sending unit right here and clean that up and put it back on and give it a try. It might come right on. For mine, that was not the case. So what we're going to do is test the wiring, and the way we're going to do this is by using a little voltmeter. It's just a little voltage light tester. These are really inexpensive, like 10 bucks. You can probably pick one of these up, and they're very handy to have. Now, what I'm going to do is attach that to a ground, and then I'm going to attach that to the wire, and then turn the key to the on position. I'm not going to start the motor, but I'm going to leave it in the on position, the running position. And you can see here when I touch it to the wire that came off of the oil pressure sending unit, I'm not getting anything off of that. It's not blinking, it's not doing anything, and it should be flashing little bursts. So now this is going to skip to the end of my install because it was my wire that was faulty, but I ran a new one. And now you can see when I run it to the correct wire that's working and not broken anywhere, you can see it flashing. And that's what you want. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's sending little flashes for the signal to tell the gauge how much oil pressure you have, and this is what it should look like. I didn't have that. And so what I did is I replaced the wire, but I'm also going to replace the oil sending unit because I'm there and it's very old and I don't want to run into a problem further down the road. So if you do have a flash coming off of that wire, it's almost certainly your oil pressure sending unit, as long as your engine actually has pressure. So what you're going to do is go pick these up. They're pretty cheap, under 20 bucks in most cases. And I'm going to show you how to install that real fast. So what we're going to do is you're going to take an open-ended wrench there, that's the right size, and just go ahead and start loosening that guy up. Very, very simple, especially when you have good access to it like this. And then you can probably take that off counterclockwise. And we're going to get our new one here and take that out of the old box there. And it has the orange on it, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of that Teflon tape. Just to make sure that we're not going to have any leaks here. You're going to make sure your area is nice and clean, and we're going to thread that in by hand, and then we're going to tighten it up. You don't have to go crazy, but you do want it pretty tight so we're not going to have any oil leaks. And then once you have that done, you can reconnect your wire. Okay, so we've installed the new oil pressure sending unit. It's very simple. And now you can plug your wire back on, and you should probably have oil pressure on your gauge. if that was the problem. If you don't, then you check the wiring. And to double check my wiring, what I did is I actually took a test lead. So I hooked up a little alligator clip and attached it to the negative, and then ran that up to the wire that was behind the dash. And the way I found that is the wire that ran to the oil pressure sending unit actually was white with a red stripe. And then I looked behind the dash where the gauge cluster is, and lo and behold, I found a wire that was all white with a red stripe. And I just shaved a little bit off the top of that with a razor knife until I could see some wire. And then I took my test lead and I attached it to the pressure sending unit, and then I held it onto that wire, and lo and behold, my pressure gauge came up. So now we know for a fact it's the wiring, and I'm going to run a new wire from there to the oil pressure sending unit, which is what I did. If the wire's good and the oil pressure sending unit's been replaced and you're still not having any luck with your gauge, it might be the gauge, and in which case you can actually just buy an aftermarket gauge and attach it to your dash or down there in your little display. And they're pretty inexpensive as well, but that may be something that you have to look into. Or, of course, order your factory replacement gauge, which would be very hard in my case because it's an old 82. So I was glad it wasn't the gauge itself. But these are the basic methods that you're going to go through in order to fix this problem. And I hope I explained that in a pretty clear and normal way so that you understand it. But that's how I went through the process of fixing mine, and now it's working great. So I hope that helps you out. My name is Jim with Full Moon Adventure Club. If it did, please like, share, subscribe. And until the next video, thanks so much for watching, and happy camping.